What is up, everybody? We're back here at King Film Sports for the NFL Week 12 betting locks and game picks here after we had a pretty scintillating Week 11 here. A full slate of great games between great teams. And we start out the recap with the Thursday night game where we had the Eagles minus the 3 points. It was a tough go of it in the first half, but eventually the Washington defense subsided. The Eagles ground game got it moving. And Jaden Daniels, a bit concerning here for the Commanders in this game. They only had 10 points. Through about 58, 59 minutes of the game there, end up scoring a late TD and 2-point conversion for some window dressing. But yeah, Eagles domination there at home, and now they have a good chance of winning that division there. Then we get to the Sunday slate where we had the under in this Packers-Bears game, and we admittedly got pretty lucky in this one. I thought that the weather would have been more of a factor. It turned out it actually was not too cold and was not too windy there. And really, the Bears offense was the story of this game as they improved a lot, but only scored those 19 points. And then at the end of the game, Caleb leads them down, but the field goal gets blocked. So we get saved by that there. The under 41.5 survives. And the Packers were not overly impressive in this game. Thought they got pretty lucky at the end. I still do not think that Jordan Love is fully healthy and healed from that injury, even with the bye week there. But all that being said, still a great win on the road in the division for this Packers team there. Then we get to the Raiders at the Dolphins here, and definitely thought that the Raiders should have covered this game here, getting the 8 points against this Dolphins team. They were within that margin for most of the game, and they were covering late until they botched a coverage, let the Dolphins get a 60-yard touchdown there, which was pretty annoying, and then they turned the ball over after that, so cannot cover the back door. Thought they were definitely getting some good value, but a good win for this Miami team, who now look to be getting themselves into the thick of the AFC wildcard race for that 7th seed there. Then next we get to the Steelers hosting the Ravens here, and this was just a vintage AFC North battle. We had the Steelers +3 in the hook, just thought it was too much value because these games always seem to come down to the wire, and this one did as well. This was just an odd game where Justin Tucker misses 2 field goals early. Derrick Henry fumbles on the second play of the game, giving the Steelers life. So the Steelers were really just playing conservative the whole game. Their offense was not overly impressive. Russell Wilson was decent other than the one red zone interception there. So just a classic Ravens Steelers game. We also did add a play on the under in this game, which hit easily as well there. The Steelers get a big win in the division now, and now 2 games up in the loss column on this Ravens team, and obviously way clear of the Bengals and Browns there. So looking like they could win this AFC North division there as pretty hefty underdogs before the season. Then we get to this Titans-Vikings game where we had the +6 on Tennessee, and I thought this was just a brutal spot for Minnesota. And this week and last week against Jacksonville, and even the week before against Indianapolis, something hasn't been right with that offense. Darnold seems to be struggling a bit, but it's good enough to get it done, not making the huge mistakes that we're accustomed to seeing with him. So the Minnesota offense just plodding along there, being methodical and scoring enough points to win. And then their defense has really been the story against this Tennessee offense. Will Levis just was not good for a lot of this game, other than the 98-yard touchdown there. They really had nothing going. So thought that they could have backdoored this one, but the Minnesota defense was too good and ended up covering the game there for Minnesota. Then we had the Colts +4. This was just a line that I was baffled at. I definitely thought it should have been a toss-up, as the Jets should not deserve to be 4-point favorites against many teams in this league, certainly against probably a league average team like the Colts. They got Richardson back in this one, and the mojo, the vibe of this team just completely shifted. They were dominating this Jets team, which probably says more about New York, and it was 13-0. Jets didn't even have a first down for the first 25 minutes of this game, but then the Jets take a lead. Richardson, a couple huge mistakes there, but ultimately he does lead them down in the end for a touchdown with a few seconds remaining there. So the Colts end up winning outright there against New York, in effect ending the Jets season now at 3-8. They look to be dead. Just a horrible disappointment this season. Then we got to the Falcons and the Broncos. We had the over in this matchup, and it should have hit easily here, as it was just a thorough Broncos domination of this Falcons defense, but it only ended up covering by 0.5 point, and I'm sorry to all of you who ended up getting the 44 and ended up pushing, or the 44.5 and ended up losing that bet. And I know this Denver defense is good, but Kirk Cousins in this Atlanta offense, they've got to do more than 6 points here, and they definitely should have. They moved the ball a bit, but in the end, Kirk Cousins, this was just one of those games that he really struggled in, and Bo Nix was great against this Atlanta defense there. So just a thorough domination and really just no points scored in the last 10 to 15 minutes of this game, which was brutal for some overbettors there. Then we had the Niners -6 against this Seahawks team, and this was just a brutal game for them there. Their offense was really just stifled by the Seahawks defense, which I'm not used to seeing because the Seattle defense has not been great all season, but something's clearly off. Purdy may have tweaked his shoulder early in that game, and Christian McCaffrey just hasn't been great. The offensive line wasn't great, and then you're also without George Kittle in this game, which was bad, but Jawan Jennings did step up for them there, but the offense just was not good enough all day. And then on the defensive side, Nick Bosa goes out about halfway through the game, and then the Seahawks offense really comes to life there. Geno did not play great for most of the game, but does what is required, leads them down, and runs in the touchdown late to get the outright victory there. So a brutal loss for this Niners team, and big for the Seahawks coming off the bye to keep their hopes alive there. And then we got to this Chiefs-Bills game. I know everyone was saying Mahomes is an underdog. All he does is win outright and cover, but had to hold their nose and take this one because this Bills team needed this game. It was a perfect spot for them at home, and they end up winning by 9. It was closer than that for a lot of the game, but really just this Chiefs team does not have enough ammunition on offense. If they want to win, it's got to be lower scoring, and Josh Allen and the Bills end up putting it away late on a 4th down where Josh Allen just goes Superman mode and runs the ball in from 20 yards out. So big win for the Bills there, and now the AFC 1 seed is up for grabs between those two. And then we got to the Sunday night matchup, and this was looking like a blowout loss. And I was really shocked at how the first half of that game transpired with the Bengals down so many points, down 27-6 at one point. We ended up putting a live bet plus 14.5, and they do end up covering that easily as they score 3 straight touchdowns. It looks like a classic Chargers meltdown, but then after that, the Bengals miss a couple field goals there from McPherson. That is definitely frustrating for Bengals fans, and then the Chargers score a touchdown late. So I just thought it was a desperation spot for the Bengals. It clearly was in the second half, but just not a consistent enough effort, and a little unlucky that they ended up missing those kicks later there. Definitely thought that they would win that game come the fourth quarter, and now you look at their record, 4-7. I mean, they damn near need to win out potentially to get the 7th seed. Maybe they can afford one loss, but the schedule is pretty difficult there. They do get the bye week this week, but they're going to have to go on a run after that, and the defense will have to play a lot better. A pretty successful week 11 to bounce back from our week 9 and 10 woes. We get into a loaded week 12 slate here, and we have a couple huge locks, 2-unit locks. Remember, I've only had one so far this season. It was the Niners laying 3 against the Seahawks in week 6, and that one easily covered there. So definitely trust my 2-unit locks here. So we started out with the Browns and the Steelers. Give me the Browns plus the 4.5. Gave this one out in the Discord on Sunday night, so be sure to join that. It's the top link in the description there. And be active on Sunday nights because that's when I'm getting a lot of this line movement on these plays. But I still do like the Browns at plus 4, plus 3.5. The weather is going to be abysmal in this game, and I think that really helps out the Browns. I think it's going to be some sleet there, about 35 degrees and windy. And really, when it comes to the ground game, I think it's going to be a stalemate between these two teams because that's how the Browns want to play against the Steelers team. Steelers got a little lucky last week with those Tucker missed kicks, end up only winning by 2 there against Lamar in just a brutal physical battle here, now coming on the road on a short week. Cleveland against the Saints, I mean, they didn't look great, but they missed 3 kicks in their own right there. Dustin Hopkins was horrible, and then Jameis Winston, just a couple ill-advised decisions there to hold the Browns out of that game, but it was really closer than the score indicated. So this is just a great spot. Throw the records out in this game. It's just going to be a bloodbath between these two teams in horrible weather, so I do like the dog there with the Browns. It would be a 2-unit, but I just can't trust this Jameis Winston-led offense against this great Steelers defense there. I think he could easily just lose the game with a couple pick sixes in that one, but still do love the Browns and the value there. Then we get into the Sunday slate, and the Chiefs, now 9-1, drop a game. Give me the Panthers plus the 11.5. Gave this one out as well Sunday night, and we've already seen this line dropping here. Maybe we'll play back the Chiefs if it gets down to 9.5, but I do love the value with this Panthers team. They have good vibes coming after Bryce Young led them to that overtime victory in Munich a couple weeks ago, now coming off the bye. Hopefully prepared well for this Chiefs team who played a brutal game against Buffalo on the road, and this is their 2nd straight game here across the country, so I think that lends itself to a little bit of a down spot for this Chiefs team. Yes, they might be getting Pacheco back, but I think Kareem Hunt's already been decent for them on the ground there, and Kelsey just seems to be washed on the outside. Worthy was doing a lot of the work there in that game, and I probably think they expended a lot of energy in that game as well. So as long as Bryce Young doesn't absolutely sell this game with a few interceptions, then I do think that the Panthers will just keep it close, be methodical in there, bit of a lower scoring game, and cover the 11.5. I think that's way too many in that one. Then we get to our first 2-unit lock. Give me the Bears plus the 4 points. Gave this one out on Sunday night. First at Bears plus 4.5, so I grabbed it at 1 unit there. Then Bears plus 4. I think it's currently sitting at 3.5. I still do like that for Chicago if you're able to get that. But very similar to the Steelers-Browns game where you have this Vikings team who played 2 straight games on the road. This is their 3rd straight. And then you have a Chicago team that just got really unlucky last week, and they are still on this 4-game losing streak dating back to that Washington Hail Mary disaster. So they've got to get right, got to get in the win column, and I really like how their offense improved. It is a bit scary backing Caleb Williams in this offense against this Brian Flores-led defense, but at home in Chicago there, I think they are able to build on what they had last week and potentially put up more than 19 points. And then Sam Darnold on the other side, do not think he's played great, as I've said, the last 3 weeks. And really before that, in that Rams game on Thursday night, didn't think he played great. And against the Lions, had a couple mistakes. So this is not the same Vikings team that got up to that 5-0 start and everyone was thinking Darnold was the MVP. They've regressed a little. They will get some plays over the top against this Bears defense. But ultimately, I do think that it is a very close, low-scoring game here. And give me the Bears to cover the spread. I also think they went outright there. Then we get to the Titans and the Texans. Give me the Texans to win easily in this matchup. Yes, coming off the short week, and I do think the Titans are bound to win one of these games. They're sitting at 2-8 currently, and it is a divisional battle. And the spread is inflated a little bit here. It's up to 9 and 9.5. So maybe if it gets to 10 or 10.5, then we could be looking at a Titan spot. But ultimately, just this Levis offense is just not good enough to keep up with the Texans here. So give me CJ Stroud and this offense to reign supreme at home in that one. Then we get to another betting lock. Give me the Colts +8 against this Lions team. Yes, I do think that this Colts team is underrated. I think they're around league average, but the markets seem to indicate that they are worse than that. This one at home, coming off of good vibes with that Jets win, with Anthony Richardson potentially the locker room coalescing around him, going for that 7th seed. And then you've got this Lions team. This is just an absolute sell spot here at 9-1, coming off that 52-6 win against Jacksonville. I mean, that Jacksonville team is horrible, and the Lions always run up those scores. A couple weeks ago, they got lucky against Houston, that Sunday night matchup, and I think that it's going to be similar to that one. Goff going to throw a couple interceptions here, and the Colts will be able to move the ball on the ground, Jonathan Taylor and Richardson, and they will just hold the ball. Time of possession, they will win this matchup there. So I'm not calling for the win outright, although I could certainly see it. I think it's going to come down to a field goal at the end, but Colts plus the 8 points, that's way too much value here. I love Indianapolis at home there. Then we get to another divisional battle, Patriots and the Dolphins here. Patriots have been a bit frisky as of late with that big win in Chicago, and then they kept it close there with LA at home, but ultimately lost to the Rams there with a late Drake May interception. In this one, give me Miami. I think they extend the winning streak. I think they're just better in all realms against this Patriots team. I think that their offense will go off against this Patriots defense, and Drake May will just probably have to play a perfect game for them to win this game, and I just see him having a couple mistakes there, so give me Miami to win at home. Then we get to an interesting one. Both teams coming off the bye, Bucks at Giants here. And the big news is that the Giants will be starting Tommy DeVito in this matchup. I think for the time being, I don't know how that will impact their effort in this game. Maybe they try super hard in this one, but I generally think that DeVito is worse than Daniel Jones. Definitely thought that they should have went with Drew Lock. Maybe they're just trying to absolutely tank the season. So definitely give me this Tampa Bay team, even though they are battered with injuries, coming off the bye here, potentially get more healthy. And I do think that Baker Mayfield is just much better than Tommy DeVito in that one. So give me the Bucks coming off the bye to win in New York. Then we get this divisional matchup, Cowboys at Commanders, and this one is just going to be a blowout here. Give me this Commanders team to win with margin against this Cowboys team that is coming off the short week after getting embarrassed against Houston here. The spread is like 10.5 or 11 there. So Washington and Jaden Daniels will go off against this Dallas defense. And then Cooper Rush, I mean, he was just a disaster as well in that Monday night matchup. So we'll see if he can improve there, but certainly would be surprising if Dallas ended up going on top in that one. Then we get to the afternoon slate here, where we started out with the Broncos and the Raiders, and I'm taking the Raiders plus the 6 points. I just think this Raiders team is a bit undervalued here, and thought they played better than the score indicated in Miami last week, though they are 2-8 at this point. I think that their offense showed some things, and I think that this is a good sell spot on this Broncos team after they essentially played a perfect game against Atlanta in their home field. I think coming to Vegas in this one, this is just going to be a classic AFC West battle between these two teams. Come down to the end, I think Bo Nix is doomed for some regression, and I think that Raiders offense will be able to move the ball against a stingy Broncos defense, so could potentially be a 21-17 game late with either quarterback trying to lead a game-winning drive, so I do like the Raiders to cover in that one. Then we get to a really entertaining afternoon matchup and essentially kind of an elimination game between these two teams, Niners and Packers on the brink of the playoffs, both of them definitely in the Niners case more so, and give me the Niners plus the 3 points. I just think this is a desperation spot for this team. This is actually the first time that they're going to be the underdog in 30 games, all the way since that NFC Championship game in 2022 against the Eagles. They were favored in all 20 last year from week 1 to the Super Bowl, and all of their first 10 games this season. And I know they are battered with some injuries. I'm expecting Purdy to play in this one. Maybe they get Kittle back and maybe Bosa plays, but they are getting Charvarius Ward back, I believe, as well on that defense. Defense just needs to play a lot better than it did against the Seahawks. And if they do, then I think that they can make some plays against this Packers offense, who are still not right. They really got locked down in that Chicago game for most of it there. Jordan Love, as I mentioned, does not seem to be his regular self that we saw at the end of the season last year. Yes, this is a revenge game for that divisional round playoff game between these two teams, where the Packers lose narrowly in the fourth quarter there. But ultimately, I think that the Niners will be able to stop Josh Jacobs in that Packers ground game, really force Jordan Love to make some plays. And I think that he'll throw a couple key interceptions like he did in that divisional playoff game. So I do think that this Niners team, season hanging in the balance, will come out to play in this one. And you're getting the value in the 3 points. I think that they win outright there. But praying that a couple of the injuries go their way and we see some of their star talent come out to play in this game. Then we get to an NFC West battle here, potentially for first place in the division for the time being. Give me Seattle to win here. I think that this one is just a straight coin flip between these two teams, because Seahawks, I don't know how they're going to respond after that emotional victory in San Francisco last week. And then you've got this Arizona team coming off the bye, sitting at a strong 6-4 here. But the edge for me is just the home field in Seattle there. I do think that the Seahawks will parlay that emotional win into playing well again at home there. So give me the Seahawks to win narrowly, although think it's going to be very close, obviously, in that one. Then we get to primetime Sunday Night Football. Give me the Rams plus the 3 points against this Eagles team. Yes, Eagles coming off of long rest in this matchup after a big win on Thursday night, but I just think that this is a fade spot for them. They're flying a little too close to the sun, 8-2 here, and I think that Jalen Hurts will actually have to make some plays down the field against this Rams defense, and I think that he will throw a couple interceptions there, just will generally not be as effective as he's been, and this Rams defense, especially that front seven, has been improving as of late, and I like the way that the Rams responded after being down early in that New England game. That offense has really picked it up. I think that's going to be a big test for this Eagles secondary. Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, everyone's saying that these rookies are just great draft picks and great talents already. Well, they have to prove it here against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Stafford in this offense, and I do not think that they will be able to hang in there. I think that the Rams win this game outright. I think that passing attack will reign supreme in this one, so give me the Rams plus the 3 points in that one. And lastly, we get to the Monday night matchup, another 2-unit lock. Give me the Ravens minus 2.5 in the horrible Jim Harbaugh versus John Harbaugh. Obviously, great storylines there, but you see the records between these two teams, and I just do not think that is indicative in any way at all of the talent of these two teams. I think that the Ravens are much better here and have got unlucky in some close games, as was evidenced last week against Pittsburgh here. I think this is just a desperation spot, and also think that home field advantage will not be very big here, if at all, for this Chargers team. I think that Lamar Jackson and this offense will be a lot more effective than they were last week. I think they'll be able to run the ball pretty well against this Chargers team. Lamar will make some good plays through the air. And then on the other side, Justin Herbert, I think he's going to have to play a lot better than he did last week. And really just in the second half, their offense got clamped by the Bengals. So I do think that the Ravens defense, although it has struggled at some points this season, was decent against Pittsburgh. And I do think that they will be able to use that Bengals game plan from the third and fourth quarter to stifle this team. So Justin Herbert, the ball will be in his hands late. I think he probably has to play a near perfect game to keep the Chargers in this one, and just do not think that he will be able to do it there. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think of my picks, the 2 units, and the others in the comments down below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.